Hello, this is Cadillac Jim for the Thursday Night Cadillac Chats. No one has joined us just yet, but I'll carry on by myself in the hopes that Texas Jim will be on board, or KHE or Bruce, who's on the road, will be able to check in while he's on the road. I'll go ahead and re-invite and see how that works. And there are no published topics for tonight, so I'm unexpectedly left to my own devices. I usually depend on Texas Jim for his ideas. I'm quite concerned about his rear suspension problem, but from long distance, I'm a bit of a disadvantage to try to understand what the problem is. I have a hard time believing that electronically the shocks could just lock up. They might be very, very stiff, and that might be the problem. I really can't tell from here. If I could see the car, or if I could get if I knew for sure that OnStar read chassis codes from the BCM or whatever, I would know. I did not turn on the Q&A in time, but I am monitoring the board. I'll look for replies to the topic. And also, if you find the page, which I will post the event page on a reply to the topic, but then you can join the talks or leave a remark, and we'll see it in our text messaging. Okay, the event page link is up in a reply to the topic for tonight's chat, which is titled Caddy Info Cadillac Forum Hangout 2014-07-10, which is today's date, of course. See, now let me check and see if there are any current posts on Texas Jim's topic regarding his issue with his 26 DeVille. I don't see any new information on that. So there's been no new action today. I have not taken the liberty of calling OnStar from my car and asking if they can read chassis codes. For one thing, I'm not absolutely certain we have exactly the same OnStar. If anybody has any ideas or suggestions about that, well, then I'm all ears. It would almost have to be something about the car, because both sides apparently did it at the same time. And if the only thing I can think of is if the shocks were hyperextended somehow, which I think is impossible with the suspension built the way it is. If there are stops in the extent of the suspension that or possibly jack damage, which is unusual, would be unheard of on both shocks at the same time, which leads most people to feel that it's electrical. That would imply to me a short in the wiring harness, but without the codes, we can't tell for sure. So Texas Jim is going to get out and put the car on a lift very soon, but this hasn't happened yet. At this point, since there's no one else to choose a topic, well, then I'm going to get on my favorite topic, which is tires. There are a number of tire attributes that are of interest. The tread pattern determines, to some extent, the ability to handle hydroplaning. The compound determines the traction in both wet and dry, and also in the effect of temperature on the grip. As you know, hot tires tend to do better on grip, but not always. And high performance, very soft compounds tend to get hard in very cold weather, which gives us summer tires, which are not recommended for driving in the snow. because they get hard as a rock, and you tend to glide on them. All-season tires compromise the summer performance just a tad to give you acceptable performance in the snow. And I found that some fourth-season ultra-high performance tires give you excellent performance in the snow. Uh, uh, there are tires that are made for studding and this kind of thing that I'm not going to address in the first week of July, second week of July, but basically you have the compound, the tread, the profile, the cord as the major aspects of design. There are an enormous number of subtleties in tire design. I'm not an expert there, and if someone cares to join in and knows more than I do, he's very welcome to do so. But given that, I will say that high performance or ultra high performance or summer tires are best if you're interested in performance. You may find that some of the high performance tires are noisier than some people would like. If you're primarily interested in smooth ride and noise and not a lot of sensation in the steering wheel, you should stay away from high performance tires. You'll find that if you have a CTS or DTS or HES or other car with a T in the middle, a car with a touring package, you'll find that all the tires recommended for that car are high performance or ultra high performance or summer tires or other tires, and you need to pick and choose if tire noise is a problem for you. I will say that it's not for me, so I'm not a real good judge of that attribute. There are limits, but I've only had one set of tires that I ever objected to on noise, and I can't remember what that was. I think it was a set of tires that were sold to me as supposedly an improvement on my OEM tires, the Goodyear. I forget the H-rated tires that were standard on the ETC in '97, but they those were probably the best all-around tires I had until I took the bull in the horns and got some Michelin Pilot Sports. Never let a tire store pick your tires for you. If you know what you want, that's fine. They know what they have, they know what to sell, and they think they are experts. But in point of fact, the only expert on your car is you. So you really need to pick and choose the tires. So here we are, almost 15 minutes into the scheduled chat, and we still have no one joining me. I've wished Texas Jim well, and I'm sorry KHE couldn't join us. And as I mentioned before, Bruce is on the road. He surprised us in the past and joined in, but tonight I don't see him. I'm checking the thread for replies to see if anyone is commented there, and not at this point. So there's nothing in the text message. So at any rate, as far as there's a lot of popularity for going to bigger wheel sizes. If you do that, you need to make sure the rolling radius or the number of revolutions per mile is within 1 or 2% of the OEM tire to keep the drivability of the car good, keep the speedometer from getting out of cal and so forth. Most tire selection charts, if you input what kind of car you start out with and they have your model listed, they will tell you which tires are within that range. If not, look at the revolutions per mile of your OEM tire and the revolutions per mile of the tires you're considering, and make sure they're within 2%. And that basically means that you're good to go. I will say that once you get below 50% profile, you need to be careful and make sure that that you don't have a durability problem with the tires. I've heard people with ultra low profile tires complain that they can't keep air in them, and that they are subject to damage, and they can be a problem. I will say that also tire wear can be a problem on ultra stiff suspensions because the suspension compliance isn't there. And if the suspension compliance isn't there, when the road stresses your tire, you have slippage or high tension. And so basically, you need to be aware that a lower profile tire on on a bigger wheel with the same rolling radius as your OEM tire is going to be less compliant at the tire. Now, the compliance or the transfer of road forces between the road and the chassis involves a lot of forces, and if you just change one, namely the tire, the rest won't be changed to compensate, and so you will likely have a stiffer suspension or less compliance between the tire and the chassis. In other words, the ride will tend to be a little rougher. This is ameliorated a bit if you have wider tires as well as lower profile, and the tire pressure is lower. Now, don't go below 30. I don't recommend that on any tire. If you have low profile tires and you get below 30, then they can be more easily cut by potholes, curb bumps, and so forth. So if you do go a larger tire, then watch the rolling radius. Make sure that the width increases a bit so that you have the same load capacity for the tire, the load range. Say 96H, 97H, 98H needs to be the same. The speed rating, there are a number of speed ratings. So this is a new one I've seen. I forget what it is. T-rated, I think. That's 110 mile an hour. I do not recommend that for any of the high-performance cars. The turbocharged cars or the Touring series cars should have at least H-rated tires. My car came with H-rated tires, and every tire put on it has been W-rated or V-rated. That was my Eldorado. Of course, I have WV or Z-rated tires on the CTSV. I think these are Z-rated. The car is quite capable of speeds far beyond what's reasonable on public roads in the United States. And I don't have reasonable access to the Autobahn in my daily driving, so I rarely have any need to stress even an H rating on my daily driving. But the capability is there, and I like to have in mind that if I have a mind to, the car is ready to go, and I can take it out to Atco Raceway and put it through the quarter mile and log a 0 to 60 time of maybe 3.7 seconds. I've seen that on a lot of Stone Cold stock CTSVs with a 4-door. Quarter mile times of 12.0. That's the best ones do that if the tire pressures are properly set up for the launch. And speeds about 120. I don't recall what the end speeds are, but this is certainly right on the edge of the H rating. And if you are slow to get your foot off the gas, well, then it could hit 130. I don't know if any of you have experienced the kind of power that you get in a car like that, but keep making sure that you're flat on the floor to 120 and getting your foot off before it hits 130 would require good reflexes. But I like the knowledge that the car is ready to go, and I want to keep it that way because that's what I bought, that's what I paid for, and I have no intention of downgrading it for anyone else's personal convenience or for their opinions or tastes. It's my car. And I'm sure most of you feel the same, that it's your car, and what you do with it is up to you, and you fit it for your taste, for the purposes of being driven by you and your family, or maybe just you. So at any rate, you need to pick the car, the tire properly. The reason I said cars, I was thinking about a fellow who's looking at buying a used Cadillac, and he picked one model, and it seemed to feel like any of several models would be okay, and it suddenly hit me that there some models, I've had people who are used to the touring models buy a base model and find the suspension too mushy for their taste because that's not what they expect. And they think something might be wrong with it. And there might well be in that particular case. But in point of fact, if you are looking at buying a Cadillac and you have a wide menu, say you're looking at used ones within a certain price range, and within a couple of years you have a wide variety of models available to you, be sure and pick the model that best suits your taste for a car you want to drive for the schedule. For example, if it's a commuting car, you would probably be more comfortable with a Seville or CTS. And the 3.6 Di V6 with 318 horsepower is probably more than sufficient for commuting and daily driving. If you're more of a sporty car type, you might want to make sure that you get the touring models or even the V series or the V Sport series. The V series, as far as I know, is not out for the CTS. They do have have it out for the for another couple of models, but it's imminent for the V series. It is out for the CTS, but they don't have the platform upgrade for the new generation Sigma platform. It's the platform they've used with the supercharged V series since 2009. So, but it's no slouch. It's just the new one is going to be several hundred pounds lighter, a few hundred pounds lighter, significantly lighter, and is likely to have a chassis dynamics improvement as well. It's unlikely that they will not improve the horsepower. They've had that 560 they've had that the LSA platform since unchanged since 2009, and that's 6 model years. I think it's time that they do increase that. Also, everybody's been shooting at it, and everybody, after having all that time, has went up the horsepower just a little bit. Cadillac has a way of entering some games to compete with the crowd. They have enter other games with the opening statement being, "I win," which they did in 2009 with this, the new generation of CTSV. And there's no reason for them not to do that again. They accept price, of course, and market share. And they have already split the market with the V Sports Series. The V Sports Series is within a few seconds of the old V Series for the CTS at Nürburgring. So I think that they're in a position to wait till everybody else shows their hand and then begin the game with "I win." I have no idea where they're testing it now. If there's been no news from Nürburgring, all the teasers have been carefully orchestrated long-range video shots and a few close-up stills that look like the 2014 models rather. So I don't think there's been any real information released about the new generation Sigma supercharged CTSV model. But I will say that I've had 2 sets of tires on this car. I've had the second set on it for a few months now, and it looks like I'm going to get at least 2 years out of it, and quite possibly more. And I'm not driving that many miles. That'll probably be 15 to 20,000 miles, could be more. Bruce has been getting that out of his tires. Now, my wear rating is around 400. That's 400% of what the baseline tire wear rating is, 40,000 miles, for a grocery getter style car. With the stiffest suspension as this car has, low profile tires and all that, but then they just don't get the mileage. Also, the super high performance tires don't go as far as the H-rated tires. So the UTQG ratings 400 will not get you 160,000 miles on a CTSV. I'll be happy if it gets me 25,000. And I knew that when I bought them. I had high hopes. I always, on the Eldorado, I tended to run the tires out of years before I ran them out of tread after the first 2 sets. The tires just got that better. much better in terms of wear resistance, and I always bought high performance tires on it. The only complaints was the first generation of Michelin Pilot Sport tires were a bit stiff, but the second generation, the Pilot Sport Plus, which I got after a 4 years of riding on Bridgestone pole positions, these were fine. They're fine for noise. The performance seemed to be at least on a par with the old Pilot Sport before the Pluses were released, and the Michelin site did not give them quite the dry traction rating of the old Pilot Sport, but I certainly had no complaints. The dry traction rating is supremely important on any car because this goes directly into stopping distance, and that's an emergency response factor, and that's a safety parameter, is the dry traction. And you can say, well, I don't need that because I'm not going to be looking at how well my car corners at the limit of traction. But if your wife jams on the brakes and the ABS and the tires in the road are determining whether you have an accident or not, yeah, the dry traction is all there is. It's way ahead of whatever's in second place. So, but like I said, I never had any complaints. Right now, I'm running Goodyear Eagles. There's a new line out. Don't have the model directly in front of me, and I've had them for some time now. But I will say that I have zero complaints. So I have had no one tell me offer anything for me. So I'm going to offer something in the common interest. I just had an email get back with me, and I had a link in that email, and I'm just going to go to that website. And I'm going to share that with you. This is a website called bugjuggler.com. And bugjuggler.com is a fundraising site for a huge 70-foot tall robot that will be programmed for one purpose, and that is to juggle cars. And you're looking at an animated gift of a model. I find it more interesting to look at the YouTube overview, which I will share with you. You should be getting the sound now. Uses a diesel engine for prime power. See, it's got a holster. I see a balance problem here, but one should be good at juggling before one tries this. Oops. Well, accidents happen, but it looks like an excellent concept to me, and I certainly hope they get their donations and actually build this machine. I would love to see this. Investment and sponsorship opportunities. They're going to build an 8-foot tall, a 12-to-1 model, and use it for developing a model that'll handle 250-pound bug model. So that's my human interest for today, and so I will now. I still don't have anyone joining us or any comments or questions. I would entertain suggestions for substitutes for Volkswagen Bugs for these people. Anything in the weight range, about 3,000 pounds, would do. As if anybody does have any suggestions, but then it would be very nice to have those, or you can just go directly to bugjuggle.com and offer them your suggestions directly. I'm sure that all of us have some ideas, particularly those of us who have a lot of rush hour traffic in our daily commutes. Well, we are 35 minutes into our talk, and we still have no contributions. I also see no questions. And I'm going to check the, I see nothing on the text. I'm also going to check the forum. I see no comments on the forum at this point. Okay, so I have a new plan that I got through my insurance agent, which I'm not going to give the name and brand just yet. I'll probably do that in post soon. Had it for some months now, a little over 6 months, and it uses OnStar. If you have OnStar, through a special arrangement between them, you, and OnStar, that monitors your driving habits. That's a privacy intrusion thing. You may remember the Flow and the insurance ads on TV, where they put out this dongle and say you can plug that in and save money on your insurance. Well, there are a lot of reasons to do that and a lot of reasons not to do it. For example, if you've got a lead foot and drive like a maniac, your insurance company could decide to cancel you, without any other input. And they flatly say so in the disclaimer when you sign on. In my wife's case, which is the reason I was looking into it in the first place, she only drives the car about 2,000 miles a year, maybe less, and we're paying more for that car than we are for the CST-SV. It's a 1999 Pontiac Grand Am, 185 horsepower and the corporate 3.4 liter V6. The HO model gives it 5 or 10 more horsepower than the regular the Grand Prix and Grand Am with a V6. But and it's got a marvelous handling. It's got 50 profile tires from the factory, high performance, and it would outhandle my Eldorado. It will not outhandle my CTSV, but it's in the same league. Since I have, it's 556 horsepower SAE certified, but then and she has 175 SAE net, supposedly at the front wheels. Her car was is no slouch for performance, but I wouldn't even look at it in a tight corner against the CTSV because there's too much else there. But in point of fact, the handling is excellent in that car. But with the amount of miles she drives and her driving record and my driving record, I thought, well, why are we paying that much for insurance? And sure enough, I put both cars in it, figuring if I didn't like what I saw on the CTSV, I would just yank it. And almost immediately, my insurance rates dove for the CTSV, but they didn't change much for the Pontiac. And so I scratched my head, and then I realized for some reason, the dongle doesn't, which hooks onto the OBD2 connector, doesn't get the mileage. This is a mystery to me because OBD2 is OBD2, and it can interrogate, and the protocols and the responses are all standardized according to the IEC standards and the SAE standards. But they don't get the mileage, so I started entering the mileage on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. So they would have that. I still have not seen the insurance rates drop, but I won't know for sure until we have another insurance period come by. That should be in October. So I'll know in a couple more months how much it'll save us on the Pontiac. But to my amazement, it saved a bunch of money on my 2011 CTSV. And I don't have the lead foot with it that I did with the Eldorado simply because it's not appropriate with that much horsepower. And I get plenty of enjoyment out of the handling and responsiveness of the car. And I rarely tap into the horsepower. Certainly not with anybody within 1,000 feet of me. It's just not safe because people just aren't ready for that. But in point of fact, it does seem to be a good deal. I don't know how I would turn it off if I decided to take a day at the track. I would check with OnStar and the insurance company about that. But I'm sure that a lot of insurance companies start with it. My insurance company is not the one advertised by Flo on TV. Not by a long shot. And regardless of what they say on TV, it probably never will be. So, but I will say that you might consider this because it has the added advantage that I don't have to pull out the code reader to look at the wife's car if something's wrong with it anymore. I get an email if a code is written on the car. Also, just like OnStar, I get email summaries of the car's health, which includes any codes. The car is a tire pressure monitor that I don't know if it's hooked into the OBD2 of that vintage 99, but it has a warning light on the dash. But I have gotten emails from the car when the battery starts getting low. And I started getting emails a few months ago. I put this trickle charger on it, and that brought it back for a long time. But this last time I put the trickle charger on it, it only kept the emails quiet for a week or so. And so I decided it was time for a battery. When I pulled out the old battery, there was a tiny crack in it somewhere, and it was leaking acid. And even though the battery wasn't old enough to be replaceable, well, it probably was still in warranty, but it didn't get the same type of battery, so I just got a better battery. But I think this was a case of someone who was not me changing the battery, and the battery clamp bolt, just running it down until you hit 30 pound-feet or something like people do with a wrench. Whereas in a battery clamp bolt, well, then you have plastic parts, and 10 or 15 pound-feet is more like it. In other words, good screwdriver tightness. You don't grab the end of the wrench, you grab the hub of the wrench when you tighten those. So I kind of think I dodged a bullet on that one. There was some corrosion under the battery, but it wasn't serious enough for me to leave the battery out and go to the store and get some borax or something to clean it out. I did wipe it out. There was some corrosion, but it wasn't too bad. But I did notice that the newspaper I would sit it on would left a little square mark that looked like it was damp, and of course there's no dampness there. That's battery acid. In other words, that paper would come out in a square if I picked at it with a pair of tweezers. And when I bought it back for the core charge, well, then I said, tell me where I can put this down. It's leaking. And they said, put it on the floor over there. And I pointed out that part of the floor is going to be real clean. Nobody got it, but I did my duty. So I think one guy did, but he didn't say anything. I think he just knew to make sure that part of the floor was cleaned with alkaline soap of some type before he closed up that day. because I made such a point of it going to be leaving an acid print there. So, but I wasn't about to give up my $15, and what else was I going to do with that turkey? So, at any rate, the emails from this dongle saved my wife being stranded and possibly saved the car from problems with corrosion in the battery box. So, that's that, and it's saved me a ton of money on the insurance on my CTSV. So that's worth something right there. And even if you think, well, I'm not sure I want my insurance company knowing, you know, that you know, I'll put my foot in it occasionally. Well, I don't think, you know, I won't. I'm not. I don't have any tickets, and I try to drive legal and all that. But I'm no little old lady. I may have blue hair, but somehow that hadn't gotten through my skull yet. Underneath, but then I still love the sporty car. And there are those of you who may remember that I originally bought my Eldorado going into a Chevrolet Cadillac dealer with my finances in a row, ready to go buy a new Corvette. And I was there to buy a 98 Corvette. All I wanted was an option sheet. I knew what they cost. I had my financing ready, and if I could fill out an option sheet, make an offer, and based on my understanding of cost and profit on new cars, and they accepted my offer, we would order the car, and 3 weeks to 6 weeks later, then I would pick it up and we would be done. And I would have had a new 98 Vet. And that didn't work out. They didn't want to do business that way. And so while I was still trying to get them to show me an option sheet, the Cadillac side, and I was nosing around that North Star, found my threshold, pushing money across the table to clear out the 97s. And so I ended up with the best car I've ever had to date, the 97 ETC, which I drove for almost 15 years. So, and only parted with because I just could not resist the CTSV. And I figured 15 years was enough. So, well, at any rate, we've had no one call, no text messages, and I'll check one more time, but don't see any replies. Let me do a refresh on the page. And I don't see any replies to the topic, so we're a few minutes early, but I have a lot of things in my head, but I think that these, rather than continuing to listen to a monologue for another 15 minutes, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off a few minutes early in the hopes that next time we will have Texas Jim and Bruce and perhaps Carol Cadillac Restorations or other participants. Kevin is always welcome. He was a blast that one time he was here. I'd love to have him back. But we'll look forward to having a more interesting chat for you next week. This has been the Thursday Night Cadillac Chats. I'm your host, Cadillac Jim. Bruce is not available this week, being on the road. Texas Jim is not available, or he'd be here. And we are welcome, and I'm looking forward to see you next week. Thank you very much for watching. Good night.